If you think that Roman inventions only exist in history books, then you are greatly mistaken. There are tricks they created over 2,000 years ago that still work so well that modern technology has to look up to them. No electricity, no machinery, no control software. But their ingenuity left behind structures and ideas that survived through thousands of rainy seasons and sunny ones, even many things you use every day. From warm floors to water conduction systems are all reborn versions from the Roman era that you are completely unaware of. The first secret lies right within the buildings that still stand proud after millennia, despite earthquakes, wars, and time. Roman concrete. Today, our concrete begins to crack after just 15 years, but Roman structures still stand tall. After 2,000 years, they achieved this by mixing volcanic ash with lime and seawater, creating a special binder that has the ability to grow stronger over time. That's right, instead of weakening, this type of concrete ages in reverse, like a warrior, becoming more seasoned as it ages. While modern concrete hates salt and quickly deteriorates in seawater environments, Roman concrete considers salt a tonic. Modern science has only recently explained that minerals in volcanic ash react with seawater, forming new crystals that fill tiny cracks and continuously reinforce the concrete block. Thanks to this, piers and temples and their aqueducts not only exist, but grow stronger with every century. The Pantheon in Rome, the world's largest unreinforced concrete dome, is a living testament that has lasted 20 centuries without needing a roof repair. What's impressive is that they had no machines, laser measuring tools, or design software, but relied solely on experience and intuition. Just imagine. Today, a bridge across the sea requires teams of engineers, modern machinery, and periodic inspections, while the Romans built seaports that still function well today, as if they knew a formula that we are only just beginning to rediscover. But for the Romans, building sustainable structures was only the beginning. They also found a way to make homes warm in the middle of winter, freezing cold, something most of the world at that time couldn't even dream of. Their hypocaust system was the first form of central heating, operating on an extremely simple principle, yet genius, burning a furnace outside, channeling hot air through voids under the floor, and within the walls. The floor was raised by brick pillars, creating a network of hot air channels, while the walls used hollow bricks to allow the heat to spread evenly throughout the room. The feeling of stepping into a hypocaust room is like stepping into a giant oven, but you are the loaf of bread being kept warm. Public baths, the pride of Roman culture, were where the hypocaust system was utilized to its fullest, not just for bathing. These were social hubs where people chatted, discussed business, and relaxed for hours. In rooms divided into various temperature levels, cool rooms, warm rooms, and rooms as hot as saunas. The operators had to maintain a stable temperature throughout the day, working no differently than ancient HVAC technicians. The only difference was they wore togas and didn't use digital thermometers. Wealthy villas had hypocausts in many rooms. They even had systems to adjust the amount of heat for each area using vents. Ironically, many student dormitories today are less convenient than the homes of the Roman middle class 2,000 years ago. But a city cannot function on warmth alone. It needs sanitation. And the Romans took this so seriously that they built the first large-scale urban sewage system. Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer, functioned like an underground river, sweeping waste out of the city. Their public toilets were a revolution. Long, well-ventilated stone benches with over 20 seats, with water flowing continuously underneath to wash away waste, and a channel of clean water in front for washing. Users used a sponge on a stick instead of toilet paper. Rome once had over 140 public toilets, connected to the underground sewer network. The sewers were so wide that workers could enter to inspect and clean. Some parts were over 3 meters high, built with tight-fitting stones, which remain watertight to this day. The wealthy even had private toilets in their homes, connected directly to the public system, flushed by a continuous flow of water, something that Europe would not see again for over 1,000 years. Thanks to this, Rome maintained public sanitation at a level that was astonishing for its time, and to feed an entire empire stretching from Britain to Egypt, they had to become masters of food preservation. No refrigerators, no chemicals. They still kept meat, fish, and vegetables fresh for months. Salt was the primary weapon, used in different amounts depending on the type of food. Garum, the famous fish sauce, created by layering fish in salt in layers within large jars to ferment for several months. Amphorae, large ceramic jars of up to 200 liters, used for both storage and preservation, thanks to porous terracotta that allowed water vapor to escape, concentrating the flavor, yet tight enough to block bacteria. They also used honey, a natural antibacterial agent, to preserve fruit, fresh vegetables, and pickled everything with vinegar. These foods were not only safe but also delicious, helping soldiers, sailors, and merchants traveling far still have nutritionally guaranteed meals. And when it comes to safe drinks, they found a unique solution: mixing wine with water to kill bacteria. This wasn't for getting drunk, but for survival. The common ratio was 2 to 3 parts water, 1 part wine, light enough for daily drinking while still killing bacteria. Manual laborers drank a more diluted version. Soldiers had a mixture of water and vinegar, sometimes with honey. Children also drank diluted versions. In Roman society, drinking pure water was actually the strange thing. Part 2. If the system of mixing wine to purify water helped Romans survive daily, then aqueducts, those giant water highways, were the lifelines, feeding entire cities. No electricity, no pumps. They still delivered hundreds of millions of liters of clean water every day from mountain springs to urban centers, relying solely on gravity and precise surveying techniques to an unbelievable degree. Aqueducts were designed with a nearly perfect slight slope, just a few feet per mile, enough to keep water flowing continuously without overflowing or slowing down. Aqua Claudia, one of the greatest works, stretching over 72 kilometers, maintaining a consistent slope throughout its length. This required extremely precise terrain surveys, tunneling through hills and building aqueduct bridges across valleys, even creating sunken channel sections to prevent intrusion or sabotage. Water was not only provided for drinking, but also powered fountains, public baths, toilets, and even craft workshops. At its peak, Rome had 11 major aqueducts serving over 1 million people, with a level of stability that even many modern cities struggle to achieve. Once they had water, they needed to connect cities, the military, and trade. This is when the network of Roman roads entered history. The Romans didn't just build roads. They built the arteries of an empire, spanning 3 continents. Roman roads are famous for their incredible durability, enduring centuries of wind, rain, and war, horse-drawn carriages, and the footsteps of millions. The structure of a road consisted of multiple layers. A layer of large crushed stone at the bottom for drainage, a layer of fine gravel in the middle for stability, and a top layer of paving stones tightly fitted together. The surface was slightly curved so rainwater would flow into side ditches. Drainage systems on both sides prevented the foundation from being destroyed. It is no coincidence that many Roman roads are still in use. Some became the foundation for modern highways. This network is over 400,000 kilometers long, of which 80,000 kilometers are main roads, radiating from Rome like the spokes of a giant wheel, connecting every city, fortress, and seaport. The Roman army was the key construction force, turning peacetime into large-scale infrastructure projects. Roads were not just for travel. They were also strategic tools, helping the army march quickly, promoting trade, and spreading Roman culture. But the roads would be meaningless if soldiers were exhausted from hunger. That is why the Roman army became masters of logistics. In the field, their rations were calculated to be easy to carry and provide enough energy for campaigns, lasting for months. Bread is hard as stone, but long-lasting was the foundation, accompanied by dried meat, cheese, and grains for porridge or baking. On average, each soldier consumed about 3,000 calories per day, enough to wear armor, carry weapons, and march continuously. Their signature drink was vinegar mixed with water, sometimes with honey added to quench thirst, provide minerals, and disinfect unsafe water sources. To be more each unit carried hand mills to grind grains on the spot, baking bread in mobile ovens. Field kitchens were designed for quick assembly, enough to serve groups of 10. Standardized recipes ensured that no matter where they were, nutrition was still guaranteed. Thanks to this, the army could penetrate deep into enemy territory, without relying heavily on supplies. However, maintaining an empire did not rely solely on roads, water, and food. It required the speed of information. And here, the Romans were ahead of their time, with the Cursus the world's first express postal service. It operated on the principle of a relay. Rest stations were placed 15 to 30 kilometers apart. Each station had strong horses and riders to take shifts. Thanks to this, urgent letters could travel from Rome to Alexandria in only about 40 days. An incredible speed by the standards of that time. This system was prioritized by hierarchy. Military orders and the emperor used the fastest routes, the best horses. Administrative papers and census data took slower routes. Operating it required thousands of horses, hundreds of stations, thousands of personnel, along with strict security procedures with permits and encryption. HOA. The stations didn't just deliver mail, but were also small logistics hubs, providing lodging and repairs, supplies for officials and on. Thus, provincial governors could receive direct orders. The army could coordinate campaigns. Taxes were collected and reported to the center in a timely manner. These stations even gathered local news and sent it back to the capital, creating the first information network. In a world without telephones or the internet, this was the backbone of Roman power. But it would all just be a great feat. Without a solid legal foundation, the Romans understood that to maintain an empire, they needed clear laws, fair and applicable to all. And so, Roman law was born, leaving a profound mark to this day. The 12 Tables were enacted around 450 BC. It was the first time the rules were written down and made public so that every citizen could know their rights and obligations. This was not just a top-down command, but a legal foundation for the entire society. Concepts such as the presumption of innocence, the right to a lawyer, trials based on evidence and proportionate punishment, all originated from here. Their contract law allowed merchants, from Egypt to Britain, to trade within the same legal framework, ensuring that agreements were respected and could be litigated if breached. Property ownership rights were clearly categorized. Mechanisms for transfer and inheritance helped protect family assets across generations. Court processes emphasized standardized procedures. The right to appeal helped limit arbitration. The influence of Roman law spread across Europe, Latin America, and parts of Asia, becoming the foundation of many legal systems, modern ones. Looking back, it's hard to believe that all these systems, from water, roads, food supply, information to the law, were all built over 2,000 years ago and still have an influence today. The Romans proved that the strength of a civilization lies not only in its army, but also in the ability to build things that endure timelessly. Part 3. If they had only stopped at great monuments, perhaps Rome would have been remembered as an empire of engineering. But their genius also lay in everyday solutions, things that seemed trivial, yet kept the entire society running smoothly. One example, it's clear how they preserved food and drinks on an unprecedented scale. Imagine you are a merchant who has to transport fish from the Mediterranean coast to an inland city hundreds of kilometers away, in an era without electricity or refrigerators. The Romans solved this problem with salt. But it wasn't as simple as just sprinkling salt on food. They developed a wide range of recipes, 4 different curing methods for each type of meat, fish, and even vegetables. Particularly famous was garum, an ancient type of fish sauce. Fish and salt were layered in jars, large amphorae for fermentation, for months under the sun. The result was a nutrient-rich, flavorful seasoning that could be preserved for a long time and transported far. Amphorae. These giant ceramic jars were also a sophisticated invention. The terracotta material was carefully chosen to be porous enough for steam to escape, helping to concentrate the flavor, while being airtight enough to keep out bacteria. Each type of food had its own style of amphora, from the shape and thickness to the stopper, all optimized for the goods inside. Even, they could be considered the masters of organization in the ancient world, arranging the entire storage system as an art form. Besides salt, honey was another secret weapon. With its natural antibacterial properties, honey could keep fruits, nuts, and vegetables fresh for months. Even vinegar was used to pickle vegetables, eggs, and many other types of food. These methods not only kept food safe, but also brought new flavors, turning preservation into a part of the culinary art. But food cannot be effective if the drinking water is a hazard. Rome was famous for the habit of mixing wine with water, not to get drunk, but to survive. In a world where water sources were easily contaminated, adding wine would kill bacteria and parasites. A common recipe was 2 to 3 parts water, mixed with 1 part wine. Manual laborers drank a more diluted version. To stay alert, Roman soldiers had a ration of pasca, vinegar, mixed with water, sometimes with honey added, which both quenched thirst and helped the body fight pathogens. This habit was so deeply ingrained that drinking pure water became something unusual in their food and drink. Let's return to the massive infrastructure systems that sustained this empire. Aqueducts were not just water conduits. They were a testament to the calculating ability. That was astonishing. To maintain a steady flow over 10 or even hundreds of kilometers, they had to control the slope down to the centimeter. The terrain changed constantly. When encountering valleys, they built high aqueduct bridges. When encountering hills, they dug tunnels. Many aqueducts had dozens of tiers of arches, both beautiful and durable. Still standing after more than 2,000 years, the amount of water that aqueducts brought back was not only enough for drinking, but also served fountains, a symbol of prosperity, and public baths, where residents both maintained personal hygiene and socialized. But to maintain the cohesion of an empire spanning 3 continents, they needed more than just water. They needed Roman roads. These roads were built to withstand centuries of wind and rain, and marching armies. A drainage base layer, a stabilizing crushed stone layer, and a tightly fitted paving layer, helping the surface remain almost undamaged. The roads were cambered in the middle, draining to both sides with drainage ditches. This system prevents the roads from turning into mud during the rainy season, and prevents them from being destroyed by dust in the dry season. A network of over 400,000 kilometers of roads connecting all political centers, military and commercial hubs. This allowed the army to move quickly to any hotspot. Merchants transported goods across the empire, and Roman culture spread to every land. Accompanying the roads was the express postal system. Horses and riders were stationed at relay stations, spaced 15 to 30 kilometers apart. When a rider arrived, he would change horses or hand over the mail to the next person, ensuring the message moved continuously. Urgent letters could reach the farthest reaches of the empire in just over a month, an impressive speed by ancient standards. These stations also provided lodging and granaries, and repair shops for officials and soldiers, while simultaneously gathering local news. All these systems only operated effectively because they were based on Roman law. The 12 Tables established the principle of presumption of innocence, the right to a fair trial, and that evidence is more important than testimony. These principles still strongly influence modern law. They standardized contracts so that transactions from Egypt to Britain were legally secure. They categorized ownership rights, established inheritance mechanisms to keep assets within the family, and created an appeals process to limit wrongful judgments. This legal system spread widely along with the expansion of the empire, becoming a legacy that half the world still applied in many different forms. From food, water, and roads, information to laws, all were designed by the Romans, not only to meet immediate needs, but to exist and operate for centuries. This made them masters of solutions that never expire. Four quarters. The Romans were famous not only for their massive infrastructure or sophisticated laws, but also for their ability to turn every aspect of life into an efficient and sustainable system. They didn't just think about today, they built for centuries to come. And it was this mindset of leaving a legacy that created solutions that remain valuable, even in our era. Let's return to the hypocaust system, which we mentioned earlier, as a type of ancient underfloor heating. But more importantly, the hypocaust was not just for the wealthy. In many cities, public baths were designed so that all social classes could enjoy the convenience. On a freezing winter day, stepping into the hot caldera, then to the warm tepid, and finally, the cool frigidarium. It was not just a hygiene experience, but a journey of relaxation for both body and mind. Operating the hypocaust required precise technique. If it was too hot, the bricks would crack. If too cold, moisture would damage the structure. This turned the operators into true thermal engineers. Even the Cloaca Maxima sewer system was not just a waste pipe. It was the backbone of public health protection, minimizing epidemics, something that many medieval cities could not achieve, which led to horrific medical disasters. Roman engineers understood that for a city to survive, it must be clean, and they designed sewers, large enough for people to enter and inspect, durable enough to last for thousands of years. In fact, some sections of the Cloaca Maxima are still operational today, proving that sometimes ancient structures are superior to modern ones. In the field of food preservation, the Romans showed incredible creativity. Garum, a fermented fish sauce, was not just a condiment, but also a profitable export commodity. Amphorae containing garum were sealed with labels indicating their origin. Quality control, not unlike brands today. This shows they recognized the value of branding and standardization. They even organized entire supply chains, from fishing villages providing fish, salt works, amphora workshops, to merchants transporting them by sea and land. In the military, the focus on rations and logistics made the Roman army nearly invincible. An army cannot fight when hungry, and Rome solved this with a self-sufficient logistics system. Soldiers could grind grain, bake bread, and cook porridge anywhere. Pasca was not just a drink. It was a medical solution that helped them avoid intestinal diseases, something many of their enemies did not understand. Nor can we overlook the road network, where every paving stone was part of a strategy. Controlling Roman roads was not just for travel, but for dominance. They allowed the army to deploy quickly, trade to flourish, and information to circulate efficiently. Even the cursus papal. The express postal system was also a weapon of power. An order from the emperor could reach a distant province in just over a month, fast enough to change the outcome of a battle or stabilize an unstable region. And all of this could only function smoothly thanks to Roman law, a legal framework that ensured fairness, built trust, and protected transactions. Their laws did not stand still. They were amended and supplemented, refined over many generations, reflecting the practical needs of society. As the empire expanded, Roman law also spread, adapting to new lands, yet retaining the core principles: justice, rights, and responsibility. Today, more than 1,500 years after Rome fell, the influence of these inventions and systems still exists around us. From durable concrete to contract law, from aqueduct engineering to road networks, from urban sanitation to food preservation, all are the legacy of a civilization that understood true value lay in creating something that outlasts oneself. The Romans proved that genius does not only lie in victories on the battlefield, but in the ability to build a world where everything, from the paving stone to the drop of water you drink, was calculated to serve both today and hundreds of years later. And that is why, even though the Roman Empire has vanished, their clever hacks continue to shape modern life. If you find these stories of ingenuity and foresight interesting, don't forget to like and share to help more people find out about it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any fascinating historical discoveries. Next, if you want to support us directly, please join our membership to unlock perks, such as behind-the-scenes videos, extended content, or stories hidden from textbooks. Or simply send a special thank you. Every contribution of yours is the motivation for us to continue the journey of excavating and retelling the great secrets of the past. See you in the next historical adventure.